Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're gonna, in months past, we have given you our top 5 and 1 worst picks for every level of wizard spell and cleric spell. Today we're gonna start in on bards, and we are gonna give you our top 5 picks for the top 5 and 1 worst pick for our bard cantrips.
We could even say this is in honor of the new D&D movie that's been getting rave reviews from critics on its initial release for Rotten Tomatoes, featuring a man, what's his name? The guy from Star Trek's reboot with Captain Kirk. I don't remember his name. Christopher Pine got there.
Ah.
He's a bard, and this is in honor of Christopher Pine's bard, who might be funny. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm excited to.
I'm
hoping
excited
it's terrible.
as well.
I don't know.
I think it's going to be good.
I'm hoping for it.
Optimistic.
I don't know if I want to be either really campy and bad or unironically really funny and great. And I don't know which I'd rather it be, but I'm happy with either result. So
I think we need a good D&D movie.
I don't know if that's true, Bob. I really don't. D&D is a vessel for creativity, not an IP.
Yeah, but I want a good D&D movie.
That's fair. Different assessment. I'm into it.
All right. What do we got? Bard cantrips.
Yes.
Say anything about the bard? I've always had a soft spot for the bard.
Everyone does. God, I love bards. I think bards actually hit the sweet spot when it comes to having the right amount of spells that they don't feel like they take over the game with their spell quantity, while also having other magical effects and mundane effects to sort of help it interface with the world. I really wish wizards, sorcerers, clerics were closer to bard as far as their niche avenue that they can do. I wish they were a little bit more. Bards are the social class. They are the ones that get known spells, not a ton of them, but also other magical utility alongside that. As you level up with a little bit of gish stuff with swords and stuff in your subclasses, if you want, you have a little bit more room. You get magical secrets down the road that we're going to touch on probably when we get to those levels where you can learn any spell you want from anyone's list, because you're a bard. You wander the world and learn new things from all kinds of people. I like that philosophy. I like the design of bards. They tend to be some of the most fun spellcasters at the table. They're known casters, so you have to lock your spells in as you're going. I think that leads to some characters that feel very defined, that feel like this is their thing, this is where they're in their element, this is how they're going to perform it. I love that. At the same time, you don't get a ton of spells. So you're a little bit like Sorcerer, going to feel constrained and not able to do everything, which is going to make the spell reviews focus on must-haves, like spells that are facilitating your objective more often than not. You have less room for niche options whenever you're playing a bard than you do as a wizard. You can't necessarily take a silver bullet for 1 in 10 encounters on your character sheet whenever you only have 2 spells total that you can take at the new level.
All right, that's going to come into play for your list. My list tend to be more like, ooh, that looks fun.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess it's worth spelling out the caveats now that Sam ranks his spells on his list top to bottom.
Yep.
Mine are just top 5 in any order.
It's true. As a bard out the gate, you learn 2 cantrips. It's pretty important. Bob, do you want to start us off?
I have to think we both have the top one is Vicious Mockery.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the best bard spell in the game, and I won't be hearing any comments otherwise. It just is.
You
it's
will hear
hilarious.
No argument from me.
Yeah. Whenever I think Dungeons & Dragons, I think of a group of ragtag idiots way in over their heads, killing the evil, super edgy undead lich by making fun of his mother. Like, that's D&D. And that's exactly what Vicious Mockery facilitates. It does an amount of damage. That's good enough. And it does a meaningful penalty on a support character. I love that. It's hilarious. You're going to get great moments where a big evil dragon will have 2 hit points left and the bard will viciously mock it to death just because they don't want to kill the power barbarian. And it'll be tactically right, and that'll be great. But also on characters that are playing a little bit more, like trying to make the most out of their sheet, bards having a consistent way to fall back and say, that thing isn't as threatening anymore. We can reduce its incoming damage. We can take away some of its attacks while I give up Bard's Inspiration, while I'm doing the other core parts of my kit that are bonus action based. That's going to feel pretty solid basically throughout the early tiers. In the upper levels, it gets harder and harder.
Hurling an insult as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part, is getting your players to improvise the worst insults you'll ever hear in your life, as far as that has no teeth on it, and yet it killed him.
Oh, by worst insults, I thought you meant filthiest.
No, I mean, that too. Depends on who you're playing with, I guess.
Yeah, that's the case if you're playing with me.
Fair enough.
Somewhere on this YouTube channel, go click the shorts tab and
Mm.
you'll find 50 such insults.
Yes, they're delightful.
Be warned, they're pretty bad.
That's, I don't know if I was laughing with them or at them, and I don't know what's exactly the point, but I enjoyed them regardless.
All right. Vicious mockery. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, they're great. I love it.
All right, you want to take the next one?
Sure. My number one was Vicious Mockery. And while my number two might be more applicable and might be more powerful, it isn't better than Vicious Mockery. And it's Mage Hand. Mage Hand is for some reason I thought it was Wizard exclusive. It's not. Bards also get it. And that's really notable because I've seen lots of Bards use it. I should have remembered that because it's one of the con man's kit. It's part of the Charlatan Bard fantasy at its core is Mage Hand. It feels distinctly different from a Wizard's Mage Hand for some reason to me. They're the exact same spell, yet in the context of the archetypes, they feel so wildly different to me for some reason, where a Wizard's using them to grab things and create interface with the world, like turning knobs and unlocking levers and doing clever things with keys from across the room. The Bard's using it to like slip a coin purse off of someone's belt. They're using it to like stick a card in someone's boot to make it look like they're cheating, right? Like,
all right, yeah.
In the context of
I was
Bard,
thinking peek at somebody's cards.
sure, that too.
Yeah.
That Mage Hand has all of these things and more. Now it's not invisible. It'll often be treated like it is. That's the thing to keep in mind. But as if I'm a Bard, I'm getting two cantrips. They're almost always Vicious Mockery and Mage Hand, just because these two, they play so well together in so many circumstances. Vicious Mockery is great in combat. It can kill peasants on the road that look either wrong way. And Mage Hand is just endlessly applicable, usable telekinetic ability that is just nice to have access to as a magical character.
Yeah, I will agree with all that.
Do you have any particularly strong fond uses of Mage Hand? Is it just what about it speaks to you the most?
It just felt, like you said, it felt like a Bard kind of thing. It's in a different way than a Wizard. Yeah, just more practical jokes or getting up to mischief. I don't know, lifting skirts, probably a bad thing, but a Bard thing.
Bards are the horniest of all characters, as we all know. That's their stereotype for sure. And creepy can also go alongside that in the right circumstances.
Well, that was a regrettable thing I said. Let's move
Sure.
on.
All right. What's your next one? What else you got for us?
Let me look at my list. I picked Friends. Did Friends make your list?
I hate to agree, but yes, it did.
Oh, it did? Oh,
yeah,
fun.
Listen, I think of all the lists that I've ever made, they normally reflect how I objectively think powerfully a spell is, like how big of an impact it has at the table. Friends is just really funny. Friends is really, it's such a Bard thing to do. Why did you put Friends here?
Well, yeah, like you just said, it's such a Bard thing to do. And this Friends is it has a reputation for being a really bad spell. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it is.
See, I disagree. I think it does what you want. If this is what you want to do, Friends is the right tool for the job. If you just want to, start a bar fight, but in a bardish kind of way, that's the way to go.
So you're saying them immediately getting angry at you is the actual text of Friends. You're like here to say, I want to get a little bit of information out of somebody and then use them being mad at me to my advantage.
Yes.
That's where you're coming at from. I see this more as them getting mad at you is normally not intentional. Them getting mad at you is just a side effect for you using your charisma and charm here, right? It's the Bard wants to get their way, even if the party thinks it's a bad idea. So they use Friends to get their way, and then there's immediately consequences after the fact for the Bard doing this persuasive thing to swindle a bartender out of his tab or whatever, right? There's
That's
immediately
major
consequences the whole party faces. And I think that's the most common use case of it, is someone gets way in over their head with some ballsy charisma checks that have repercussions for the whole party. The thing is, I love those kinds of circumstances. I revel in big scaling, nothing going to something big, scaling conflict is very fun to me. And that's definitely what Friends can do.
So yeah, I like the intentionally making a bunch of people angry after you've swindled them somehow and reveling in the chaos.
Sure. So we both enjoy reveling in chaos. You want to intentionally do it for personal gain, and I just enjoy the chaos of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, you know what the spell is going to do.
That's true.
If that is something you desire, this is the the right size Allen wrench.
Yep. It's another consideration. This is my number 4. It's not better than the next spell I have, but it is very fun. Friends is going to play differently at different tables depending on how the world feels about charms and what level of friends fits on that scale, right? Some tables will view charms, and in societies that are like conceptually aware of and have to deal with magic logistically, charming can be one of the most horrendous like felonies to commit. Charming is a way to break laws and break rules in a way that a lot of structures can't handle, so there can be a lot of major consequences for it, to the point where you might have some towns be like, this person has used a charm, you can never trust them, arrest on site, guard seize them, kind of deals. Alternatively, you might be in a world where charms just kind of are ignored passively. We ignore the implications of messing with someone's brain to make them malleable to our circumstances, or make them malleable to our words, right? It's definitely not good, but it's a thing you're able to do in these D&D world and kind of not think about the ramifications of them, because, we're in the fantasy world, we're ignoring some consequences here. Knowing where you're at will definitely vary how good friends is versus how heavy the consequences of the actions are. Because if you're ever at a table and you're like, I used friends the first time in this tavern, and then you can never return to that town ever again, it's probably good to know that ahead of time, because you may not expect that level of ramifications for the spell, but you should always expect some level of ramification from friends.
Yeah. And you should want it if you're going to use
agreed. 100% agreed.
All right.
Love Friends. It's so bad, but I love it.
That was your number. Now, going into this list, I thought this is probably going to be one of our widest varied lists, and so far we're 3 for 3.
I'm pretty sure I have one that you don't have.
Yeah, probably. The other lists, I thought, we're definitely going to have all the same ones, and they're totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So this is surprising me.
Sure.
All right, so that was your number 4, correct?
Yep.
And we've covered 1 and 2. So what's number 3?
Minor Illusion.
All right, Minor Illusion made my list. We are 4 for 4.
Nice.
I love Minor Illusion. Why did it make yours?
Minor Illusion is really powerful. Minor Illusion is really good. So illusion spells are often referred to as the cheat codes to the game. You can make anything you want in the space that you want, and the DM has to sort of have the world react accordingly. And there are wide ranges of variance in how a DM handles illusions, to the fact that some people will automatically inspect everything all the time, always. 2, DMs will never check if something is an illusion. Where your table fits in the spectrum is likely somewhere in the middle. There will be DMs that will check it upon suspicion. There'll be DMs that check it pretty regularly, just with certain characters and not others. There'll be more scrutinous types and less scrutinous types. I find that Minor Illusion is a great testing grounds for figuring out exactly what you can get away with and exactly how powerful illusions can be. The basics idea of creating an illusory box around a creature you'd like to hide can feel like you're conjuring a crate into existence that may not even look out of place. That can be an easy way to hide a person, an object, a thing inside an illusory surface that feels and looks whole. It doesn't take up any space. So the minimum use case of this is creating a 5x5 object that you can sort of interface with the world with. That can be very powerful. Having an enemy or a competing objective see, maybe you got behind you what looks like a very tall Minotaur man turned to the back of the crowd that's negotiating with you. That can just be a means of intimidation that you have at your disposal willy-nilly, and if you're only seeing the bottom down, it can just be the upper or the lower portion of the Minotaur. The top might just not even exist because Minor Illusion's a fixed space, but you can use observation, you could use clever positioning, the basics of how even movie magic works, where perspective can make things look different. You can weaponize all that with illusions, to an even higher degree, and make things come to life in a way that the world reacts as if they're there, even if they're not. And that can be really powerful, but you have to be very creative with it. You have to be eager and quick on your feet, thinking how you can use it and how you can get the most out of it.
Yeah, you historically are a big fan of illusion spells. I'm not so much so, because I haven't really put that much thought into how they could be used effectively. This spell
can make anything.
I know.
Anything, Bob.
Yeah, well, this spell made my list because it feels like a bard thing to do, and I thought, well, maybe we can make some stage decorations or something.
That's my number 5, actually. My number 5 is stage decorations. We'll cover it shortly. But yeah, Minor Illusion does fit really well on Bard as far as performative goes. This is a great tool to give yourself... if you want to envision yourself as the rock star, Minor Illusioning a poster of the set you're about to do up on the board and be like, no, look, we're supposed to perform tonight, and then getting up on stage and just rocking out. That's super bardic, and I love that, and you should try it out if you haven't.
All right. well, I guess it's my turn.
Mhm.
Let's see. We have one more. All right, I picked. Excuse me. I picked Thunderclap
That
because I
was
was what?
go for it.
Oh, I was starting to run out of Bard cantrips that I cared about, and that well, situationally, I could see this one being useful. What were you about to say?
That's probably my number 6.
Mm.
It doesn't quite break my top 5 though. So you like it because it's a situational just damage spell you want to have access to?
I like it. Well, like I said, I
Better
was
than the
running
rest?
out of choices. Yeah. But yeah, I could picture a bard being kind of vulnerable. A bunch of goblins are gonna swarm him, and then whoa, everybody, step back,
Sure.
and I don't know, maybe strum that lute and destroy the crowd with the power of rock.
Yeah, you definitely go thunder and rah 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 when you do it, and it just blows out around you, and it's very metal. You bust out some Metallica or some I don't know, AC/DC or something. I think Thunderclap is fine. I don't think you need a damage cantrip as a bard. This might be a hot take. I think Vicious Mockery is good enough.
Yeah,
Bards
I don't.
get great. They get great. They get weapon efficiencies that are good enough. So you'll often want to make sure on your bard you're carrying a short sword, or you're carrying a sling, or some usable ranged options. I don't have them off the top of my head, but they are generally speaking relatively. They get simple weapons: hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, short swords. So at the very minimum, you have short bows and simple weapons and hand crossbows at your disposal. That's probably where you want your damage to come from. In the case that you are surrounded, though, that's a neat little upside trick to have. I don't know if it ever breaks my list of like cantrips I'm actually taking on my bard, especially up until like the 3rd or 4th. Still, at the 3rd or 4th, it seems not unreasonable. By that stage, you probably don't need it. You probably are just using your first level higher spells to do its effect. And you're definitely not taking this, I don't think, over any of the ones we mentioned prior. I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
This is my struggler.
yeah, that's fair. It's, I think, a reasonable option later if you're in really grindy games to consider picking up.
All right. Well, what was your number 5?
I would take this over Thunderclap, but I'm biased. I love Prestidigitation. I love Prestidigitation
Yeah.
so much, and especially on Bards. It's on my Wizard list too, but it's even better on Bards because they're the characters that I want to ecstatically and emphatically do nothing. I want to have a character that does a phenomenal job selling themselves. I want to, if I'm playing a Bard and if I'm playing a Charlatan or a Musician, if I'm playing any of the archetypes that can go under the high charisma, sort of master of magic and whimsy kind of personality, I think Prestidigitation does the most with the least. You can do flashes and flourishes and be the whole stage magician. You can make food taste however you want, so you're dining exactly the same way every time you need it. You can use the spell to all of its little nitty effects to the greatest tier, I think. I think bards care like about making sure their instrument, their guitar, it looks great. It always looks great, and it's pristine every single time you see it. Whenever you're doing prestidigitation things, you are selling the performance of your character. It as a cosmetic cantrip more than any other classes, I want it on bard to the point where even though I acknowledge I probably should be taking any of the 4 I talked about prior to this, I will probably put Prestidigitation on my sheet really early, even in my first 2 cantrips, just because of how much I love how much it feels to play with. It's not that great. It very much is all about how your character like presents to the rest of the world. You're not getting good world utility out of this. You're not able to change a lot of how the game works. Not a lot of practical use cases for it. But I will always have little bits and ditties about how my bard uses prestidigitation to make the food taste like, however they want. I'll have little ditties about the sparklers that come up on stage whenever I rock out and land on my knees with the final chord or whatever. All of that happens because of prestidigitation.
Yes. For all those reasons, that was a contender for my number 5 pick, and now I kind of feel bad that that wasn't it.
I love
But
prestidigitation.
I don't love it, but I will agree for a specifically bard list that should have been one of my picks. That is a very bardy spell.
Love bards. Love prestidigitation.
But alas, hey, at least because I chose something different, we got a few more minutes out of this video.
That's true. We were 4 for 5 though. Still, it's not too bad.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was that our first time doing that?
I think we've done 4 for 5 before.
Not counting the clerics that only had 4 or 5 spells.
Those were 5 for 5s.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was. I think the other one we disagreed on worst. Yeah, I think maybe it's up there. Ready to dive into the worst bard spells? Bard cantrips that you should never ever take?
Did you choose the same one you did for wizard? Because I think I did. Yeah.
I don't remember which one I chose for wizard, but it's really bad.
Yeah. All right. I think I know what you chose. I chose True Strike.
Oh, I chose Blade Ward. We figured it out. We
Yep.
did
Yep.
it.
Yep. Yep.
Great.
All
Why
right.
True Strike?
What's that?
Why did you pick True
Oh,
Strike?
because it does nothing. And you know what? I'll double down on this. I think it's even worse for bards.
It's very bad.
Yeah,
Bards can make attack rolls.
that's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's worse for wizards.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I really don't.
I
Bards
mean,
have better ways to make attack rolls than needing to use True Strike. Wizards, like, maybe you want to hit once and this helps you hit once.
no,
I
it
don't
doesn't
think it's
help
particularly enough.
other people. That's the part of the problem.
Yeah,
It's
it's true.
only usable on yourself.
Like Swords Bards, they're never. I don't think Swords Bards can cast Cantrips as bonus actions. If you can cast a Cantrips as a bonus action, this is a lot better. It takes your concentration though, and that's a really big issue.
It does?
Like things that take your concentration, yeah. You let the break concentration to use True Strike because it has concentration up to a round, which is hilarious. Which means you can cast True Strike, get hit, lose concentration, and you don't have the True Strike advantage anymore, and you waste a turn for no reason. It's horrifically bad.
Oh, well, if you cast True Strike, you already wasted a turn for no
That's
reason.
true.
All right, that was yeah. We've said all this on the wizard.
Also, maybe they haven't seen the wizard video. It's good to
Well,
touch
they
on why
should.
True Strike really and truly blows.
All right, yeah, all right. We'll get into the nitty gritty of what it does. You cast the spell. It gives you advantage on your next attack. So instead of, what does it? What does advantage do? You roll 2 dice. You take the best one. Alternatively, you could attack and then attack again on your next round. You still rolled 2 dice, but this time you
Could
could
have hit
potentially
twice.
hit twice.
Yeah, that seems like a way better option almost always.
Almost.
There's the hypothetical where it's a fight's about to break out, so you True Strike somebody as a prep round. That's not worth your whole cantrip, and I'm never ever doing that. You could just hide instead. Hiding is free.
There's a couple of other things, instances, but well, I'm going to save that for the True Strike video.
Fair.
But yeah, generally pretty terrible.
It's awful, yes.
And Blade Ward.
Blade Ward is worse than the dodge action. It's awful. Blade Ward is terrible. Blade Ward is you extend your hand. It lasts a round. So this one doesn't take your concentration, at least. You extend your hand until your next turn. You have resistance against bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage dealt by weapon attacks, specifically. This spell, you could take your action to dodge and take conceivably no damage from the attacks, missing because they have disadvantage on their attack rolls, and you get advantage on dexterity saving throws. And you didn't have to spend a cantrip known to do that. So if we're comparing the ability to have an action to have resistance to 3 specific damage types for a round, or the ability to do all of those things with disengage or with dodging, they're comparable at least, and dodging is free. So you should never take Blade Ward unless you can, again, use it as bonus actions. But there are some niche subclasses that can, and you consider it on some of those. Like Goliaths can get a bonus action. One of the, I think maybe not Goliaths, maybe it's Earth Genasi. Some UA had them a while ago. If you can make bonus action happening for Blade Ward, it's a lot better. But if you can't, and bards certainly aren't doing that very often, yeah, you're wasting your turn for no reason because you don't want to take the dodge action. You want to take other actions than dodging.
What about with dodge? Do you have to pick a particular opponent?
No.
No. All right. Well, we must be thinking of something else. Okay.
You just things have disadvantage on attack rolls against you, and you have advantage on dexterity saving throws. And I need to reiterate this. I'm not saying to all of our viewers out there, go out and start dodging. Nope, I'm not saying that. Dodging is not worth your action. And if it's not worth your action, it's not worth a cantrip. This is not worth it, unequivocally. This is a bad action. Don't take it. Make proactive decisions towards winning a fight. Blade Ward is not a proactive decision towards winning a fight. At least True Strike enables you to have a slightly better chance of taking a proactive action towards ending a fight. Blade Ward is a defense-only option you don't want to take that is just equivalent to another action you don't want to take. It's hot trash. Hot trash.
All right. Well, that's it, huh? That was our. All right, you want to go through your list again?
Sure. Vicious Mockery, Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Friends, Prestidigitation are my 5.
And the worst?
Blade Ward.
Blade Ward.
Terrible.
All right. My list, very similar, was Vicious Mockery, Friends, Mage Hand, Thunderclap, and Minor Illusion. And the worst was True Strike. People, let us know in the comments what your lists are, what you thought of our list, and yeah. And if you think anything's better than Vicious Mockery, Maybe keep it to yourself. All right, that was the top 5 and 1 worst bard cantrips. Tune in next time for level 1 spells. And thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.